What if I told you that you could reach infinite without a single meta card? No Series 5 chase, no paywall, no bundle deck, just skill, timing, and a clear mindset. It's not clickbait, it's a challenge. Because in Marvel Snap, I see the same story over and over again. Players blame the meta, RNG, the whales, but those same players could also be infinite right now if they stopped chasing and started building. Stay with me on this one, because by the end, I promise you'll understand not just how to climb, but how to climb with purpose and not with pressure. Every climb begins with a why, and most mid-rank players don't even have one. They play because the ladder's there. They feel like infinite needs like a validation necessarily, but purpose, well, that's what separates the players that climb once from the players that climb every single season. Purpose changes how you play. You go from the goal of, I must prove that I'm good enough, and then you end up tilting just incredibly fast, versus go the other way, which is, I'm trying to learn and refine. And from that, you climb steadier. That's what I like to refer to as intentional climbing. It's not playing until the cubes run out necessarily. It's more about playing until the patterns and the lines just make sense. There's a difference there between what we'll call a meta deck and a principal deck. Because a meta deck is going to give you borrowed confidence. It'll give you a little bit of a go-ahead feel because of the current meta. But a principal, a core deck that you work with, I mean, that's going to give you permanent skill because it'll translate. That's kind of what leads us down the path of how do you build the principles. Every click you make trains a habit, but the question is, what is that habit exactly that you're reinforcing? If you consistently rely on the same Series 5 cards, like Alioth or an Elsa Bloodstone or a Jeff or insert card name here, you're basically not teaching yourself how to win, you're teaching yourself how to depend on a specific card rather than a principle. Then in exchange, when you build around certain Series 3 and Series 4 cards that you really can use more universally, like your Cosmo, even Wave, Shang-Chi, of course, these are teaching you more core gameplay mechanics about priority, timing, prediction, etc. That's why practice is not about grinding more games necessarily. It's more focused on the idea of you're playing automatically and you're in a zone, and versus, no, now you're actually playing with intention. This is where we come back to sometimes a poker reference with Marvel Snap, because sure, meta decks are kind of like the pre-flop chart, where it's like, okay, here are your percentages and chances to win. But what really is going to win the tournament is not exclusively playing to the percentages and the chances. It's also about learning how to make reads. That skill that stares you in the face. Practicing discipline is the part that so many people don't talk about. We often like to think that climbing is solo, but it's not. Every infinite player that I speak to connects with other people in some way, shape, or form, whether it be directly or indirectly, about Marvel Snap. When you start sharing your ideas and your decks and your results, it starts to evolve from the idea of Snap being kind of just a game of slots to instead being more of a conversation that you're building upon. So when you connect with your group, whether it's a Discord group or a Reddit conversation or whatever, you're creating accountability within your learnings. Accountability is what's going to defeat ego way more often than not. Remember this, meta decks spread because it's just amplifying repetition. But more importantly, the ideas and principles of Marvel Snap, gameplay mechanics and practices, those spread when connection amplifies the learning. So the next time you're playing a different kind of deck or a new deck, don't just copy the code and start playing. Ask yourself, why does this win? How does this win? That's how you start thinking like a deck builder and a creator, and not exclusively just a consumer. Because remember, every top player or creator has an inner circle, if you will. It's not just a fan club or a following, it's kind of a brain trust. At Pixar, they call them honest rooms, but in Snap, it's kind of more a group of people you can talk about a deck or an idea or a synergy, and then bounce it off some other ideas and synergies and other people to help you determine, is the idea worth it or not, before you lose 8 cubes rather than after. That's very often how some of the better Marvel Snap players, honestly, daily operate on the daily. They just collaborate. They just talk early. So find a friend, find a couple of friends, build a deck on the same idea, have you both play it, and then both learn from it and start there. Doing that alone is going to teach you more than anything a Reddit thread will ever teach you. When you start treating collaboration more as a type of practice, you focus more on the idea of craft rather than credit. That's often the meta mind trap, and it looks like this. You believe that you just can't win without the cards that every other person has. You're scrolling on Twitter and you see a zombie deck that someone took to infinite and you go, well, I just can't compete. But what that's actually doing is it's taking your mindset and robbing it of one of the best pieces of what you have in this game, which is adaptability. Adaptability is going to defeat the meta every single time, both on ladder as well as in competitive Marvel Snap. There's always going to be a new Series 5 card that releases, a new Series 4 card that releases, but cards are going to get buffed and nerfed, and that doesn't matter, because if your mindset is focused in on the idea of these practices, that's going to evolve faster than the meta with a patch. Take this as a mantra to adapt in this exact context, okay? You don't need the best cards. What you need are the best reactions. Every match is a part of a lab. You're gathering data, you're learning, when did things snap and what scared you when, whether you did it or you scared your opponent, where was the surprise? And then from there, you kind of review and you learn and you grow, and that is an infinite mindset, the one that you have control over. Remember, infinite is not about perfection. It never has been. It's about progression. Every time you play a deck, there's going to be good games and a misplay and then a learning moment and then a great 8-cube luck thing, but it's a constant graph. And as long as you recognize the whole graph is going up, you don't mind the little dips along the way. So stop trying to play perfect and start trying to play like a consistent learner. Take a breath. You're not behind. You're in training. Also, the integrity in climbing means this. You don't cube drop necessarily. You're not trying to dodge or exploit. You're just climbing clean. You're climbing for mastery, not for bragging rights. And what you're trying to do is respect that journey for yourself, just as much as for the entire Marvel Snap community that you interact with. When you build that respect, you build that connection and presence that lasts way longer than a pocket meta. I've seen players that burst trying to hit infinite within 24 hours, and then they just burn out doing it season after season after season. And then there are others that rise to infinite every season because they climbed slow, but with a very directive purpose. That type of discipline and respect and integrity is what keeps you wanting to be in the game regularly and prevents burnout and allows you to the path of mastery. So breaking it down, if you want to go infinite without necessarily meta cards, remember what we've talked about in the past with building in a 4-3-2-1 style. You have your core, your central engine, if you will. You have your flex slots. You respect how you build your curve. You have your winning condition. All of these pieces matter, and that's its own video, which I'll recommend up over there somewhere, to talk about the deck building constructions. But when you're doing that, I want you to remember the principles of what you're doing, not the how do I build the deck that bursts fastest. It will backfire. Principles are always going to defeat the meta. And if it's predictable for you because you understand it, you're going to take down everybody else who's just trying to play in the moment and they don't understand it. That's the difference between taking a deck list that you know and a deck list that somebody's hoping to know, and then asking yourselves the same question. Do I understand why this wins? Or am I just hoping that it does? That's where you're ahead. So when you finally hit infinite, and you will, remember that it's not because of the card pool. It'll be because of the clarity that you had in your climb. You're going to look back and realize that every single game you played in this journey this time taught you patience, and then this one taught you a little bit more discipline, and then this one taught you more adaptability. That's the difference in creating versus consuming. And when you create with intent, you climb. By doing that, watch. You're going to go from being the person that's asking all of the people to the person helping all of the people. And that's the real Infinite. If this helped you look at the game differently in any way, share it and post your favorite non-meta deck down in the comments below. Tag me so we can take a look at it. We can improve and create that conversation within this community, the guest list. Because remember, the meta might change every single month. Mastery translates season to season to season. Thank you so much, everybody. And as always, see you next time.